71 and 48 was the record for the Rangers at the time 2 years ago today.
A dream, by the way, for today. My
Yep,
God.
61 and 61 now. So pretty unfortunate stuff. So let's get straight into the Texas Rangers though, coming straight off of a heartbreaking series loss to the Diamondbacks. Had the lead in all three games. Started off with an amazing comeback in game one. Everybody thought this was maybe a turn for the better for this team, maybe a momentum push, but it just, I guess, lined the fire for the Diamondbacks because especially Ketel Marte, who, need I remind you, was the last out for a World Series, by the way, but hit the game-winning home run Tuesday night against the Rangers, blasted it in the left field, make it 3-2. Rangers ended up losing, and then, of course, broke all hell loose in Wednesday's game with his three-run homer to give the Diamondbacks the win. Joe, is this season over?
I don't want to say it's over just yet, but this is quite the disappointing series. One of my buddies, by the way, who is a Diamondbacks fan, was saying after this third game, Ketel Marte hates the Rangers, and at this point, I believe him. I mean, this dude balls out pretty much every time he faces us. He had a great World Series. He had a great postseason in 2023, but
Yeah.
in this series again, he's killing us. And you saw it happen again in games two and three. Completely was the hero in that 3-2 victory in game two, and then you saw it again in game three where Phil Maton just could not shut the door, even with two outs on the board, and we thought the game was over. Still, this Rangers team could not secure it. And so you see the offense that was an issue for the majority of the season still is technically an issue. Not a lot of, high scoring besides that game one victory. But now we're seeing the bullpen issues. Now we're seeing even some starting pitching issues with Nathan Eovaldi, who had probably his worst start of the season in game one, ended up winning it anyways. But Jack Leiter still struggling as well, ended up finishing the game. But his pitch count is high a lot of times before he gets to the fifth inning. So I don't know what to say about this team at this point. They're a 500 team. That's all you can really say. They're just mid. They're 500.
Yeah, and here's something just real quick. So Rangers are 61-61. They have a plus 58 run differential on the season. Plus 58. 61 and 61. The team that we are about to play, the Blue Jays, 70 and 50, by the way. Run differential of 50.
Mm. The pitching has been
We have
carrying.
the
Yeah.
largest run differential in the AL West as well. 7 games back from the division from the Astros. We beat them in run differential. We beat them in run differential with the Mariners as well. So here's my controversial opinion, all right? This is the same thing that happened in 2023. We had the biggest run differential in the AL by far, still ended up being a wild card team. I think Bochy needs to go. I think that there's just, I understand, man. It's the World Series. That's something that no manager in the Rangers history has ever done. And that is something that you got to hold your head high up for. You got to respect him for that. But there is too many situational times in the season and past seasons that there has just been a total collapse through the manager spot, whether that's letting somebody stay in for too long, flipping the lineups a little bit too much. And I understand this offense is just abysmal, man. It is totally awful, and I don't think it's fixable at all. But these lineups that just keep getting put out, we talked about it in a couple weeks ago, like, the Detroit game against Tariq Skubal. We had 3 people in there that were probably in the Triple A's right now in the lineup. I mean, there's just so many times where we have had very questionable lineups. Jock Peterson should not be batting fourth anymore. It took a while for Adolis Garcia to drop in the lineup. It took a while for him to move Josh Smith up in the lineup. These are things that should be happening sooner. The rotation is interesting with the bullpen. The bullpen, look, they have little to no room for error. So when they mess up, I try to give them just a little bit of slack, but it's at the point where there's not a lot there's I can't defend them anymore, I guess. You're 4-2, you're up 4-2, top of the ninth, 2 outs. I turned the TV off. I thought the game was over. And the game's not over. They end up losing by two. They gave up 4 runs before getting that final out and not scoring in the bottom of the ninth. This team is terrible, and I hate to blame it on Bochy, but Bochy is a huge part as to why we cannot get. I guess I think he's just a big reason why we have the record that we have right now instead of it being a lot better. And I don't know. I mean, it's just so weird. So weird to see this team turn from 2023 to 2025. I mean, it's a lot of guys from the World Series team, same manager, but something has just happened. And I think Bochy needs to go, and I think this team maybe needs to get blown up.
The worst part to me is that they traded off some valuable prospects for these bullpen pieces, and they've been majorly good for since the trade deadline. I think Phil Maytown, this is probably his worst outing since we got
Well,
him.
they
He had
blew
a
both
good
games
show.
against Arizona, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. But like Danny Coulombe gave up his first home run, not just as a Ranger, the whole season with that home run he gave up to Ketel Marte in the ninth inning. It's unreal, man. So that's too nice that your bullpen really has cost you a game. But again, you talk about game two specifically because that's the one that really bothered me. They didn't have a hit, I believe. The broadcaster they didn't have a hit. Uh, I think at the fourth inning. Since the fourth inning, at that point,
Oh my God.
um,
I
I mean, the
know.
offense has just been abysmal all season long, but I think it was either the third or fourth inning they didn't have a hit towards the end of the game. So I'm like, your pitching is doing what they can. You look at the final score, giving up 3 runs isn't like terribly bad, but when you're scoring like two or less almost every single game, it seems like, I mean, at some point, something has to give. And I understand what you're saying about Bruce Bochy, about possibly not, being here next year. I feel like he may be on the way out either this year or next year. And they'd be classy about it too. I don't think they'd straight up fire him, but I think that he'd probably, step down, just being the first guy to win a championship for this franchise. I think he'd go out with grace. But I do think that, you pulled this guy out of his retirement to manage this team who you thought was going to be good for a long time. I think it could be time after this year to move in a different direction if you're Chris Young, and I'd understand it completely. So I don't think, your words are invalid when you're talking about Bruce Bochy possibly moving on. They have some young candidates who can possibly replace him. I keep thinking of guys like Skip Schumacher, who is currently the assistant to the manager right now, who they've stashed from the Marlins organization. Young guy, former major leaguer. He's played with the Cardinals, of course, was on that World Series team that beat us in 2011. But there's plenty of other candidates who could possibly replace him, too. And I'm not trying to sound ungrateful. Some Rangers fans will say, you haven't seen anything bad yet and you're living in the glory days. You're spoiled. I understand that. But for what this team was advertised, for the free agents that we thought were going to show up, this team should not be 500. This is
Yeah,
actually
absolutely.
insane. Insanity.
Yeah, they should be fighting for the AL West right now. And like you said, I mean, this is Bruce Bochy. I feel like there's a lot of people who don't want to say that he should be gone because, again, he is the manager that brought home a World Series. But you look at some of these comparisons, you talk about like somebody like Adolis Garcia. I would argue that Adolis Garcia has a bigger help in winning that World Series than Bruce Bochy did. He was on the field and he had an amazing impact. And now it seems like the majority of fans want him gone. And it's just weird to see that. I feel like some fans are still sticking with Bruce Bochy. I think, unfortunately, I think his age has caught up to him, maybe. I don't think that he is the right decision for a manager anymore. I think, again, it's the lineup changes, not doing it enough, and then doing it too much. And then I don't know. It's a tough job, obviously. You can't always be right. You're going to be wrong a lot of the times, but there's too many continued trends. So, and like you were saying about that Tuesday game real quick, Jake Woodford, by the way, Jake Woodford, reliever for the Diamondbacks. I remember looking up, I went to the game. I remember looking up at the big screen. He had given up 28 hits and 19 innings pitched. All right. I looked at his stats from today or from Tuesday while I was at the game. 3 innings pitched, 0 hits allowed. That is pathetic. That is
That's crazy.
straight up double A activities from this lineup. All right. This guy has given up hits left and right in the MLB, and he gave 3 straight innings of perfect innings. It is unacceptable. Unacceptable.
And may I also say, before we close out this segment, Robert Garcia, man, I don't know what Bochy's affinity is with Robert Garcia. Why is this guy?
Investigate Robert Garcia. Investigate him.
That play in game two, dude, investigate that, please. MLB, take a look. It's getting ridiculous, man. Every time this guy is in, you're getting at least one run surrendered. It's getting bad. He had a great first half, but when you trade this guy for your Gold Glove, Silver Slug first baseman, straight up, it was man-to-man trade, nothing else, no prospects. Come on, dude. Plays like that,
Yeah.
it's a microcosm of the
See,
entire season.
yeah, and that's another Bochy decision right there. Why did we put Robert Garcia out there when he has been very, very poor in one-run situations in the last month? He's been very poor, and we put him in with a one-run lead. He gives it up. And it should be an earned run. I don't know if they count it as an earned run, but it should be an earned run since it was his error. But I mean, it was just I was dumbfounded to see him there. And then he does that on the first at bat that he
My
faces, first batter that he faces, trips on the ball, grabs it, and I thought it looked terrible in person. I watched it on my phone afterwards. It looked even worse on TV, man. That was abysmal. Investigate him for that, man.
I can't imagine seeing that in person. That must have been a trip. What in the world? I knew he was gonna throw it too. I was just hoping, please, just eat it, man. Just don't throw this. Don't force this
Oh
play.
man.
Oh
Dude,
my
that was
God.
yeah.
What in the world?
I couldn't believe my eyes. I really couldn't believe my eyes. I think I had to go get a beer after that. But
Come on, dude. What are we doing? It's bad. We're pleading for help in Arlington. We're pleading for help in the DFW Metroplex.
yeah, so anyways, the Rangers who are again have a better run differential than the 70 and 50 Blue Jays, but are now 61 and 61 will be playing in Toronto and then having a road stretch. I believe 4 games in Kansas City afterwards, which is 7 game road trip after uh 1-5 homestand after beating the Yankees. Not looking too good compared to their last road series and
Boy, oh
also
boy.
their road record this season, which is over 10 games below 500 now. Not looking too bright for the Rangers. You always want to say never, but that might have just been the thorn to the Rangers, or I guess I don't know. It's just might have been the nail in the coffin for the Rangers season. Just tough, man. The Bochy bat. Oh shit, I really messed up there. The Bochy gap year. That propaganda, it's so hard to let go of. I,
What better team though to break that whole like curse than the Texas Rangers? I
than
mean,
the
we've seen
2025 Texas
we are the
Rangers.
exceptions. We are the exceptions in literally anything. It doesn't
Yep.
matter.
Yep.
Anything you think is possible because of a certain stat, forget about it. It's the Texas Rangers,
Mm.
unfortunately.